The morning air is cool and crisp. You feel it on your skin. You see it in your breath as it puffs up in plumes. And most of all, you feel it in the cold metal of your revolvers as you stand and get ready for the day. All around you is a stillness, like ice over a frozen lake waiting to be broken, a danger lurking beneath. Glance as you stand to your feet, looking out over the cold desert, looking towards Crow's Gulch. You feel the bruise that's formed on your face, on your high on your cheek, where Matoska punched you. You feel it in the crook of your nose, where it's slightly bent out of place. You see it on the blood splattered on your boots. You can't remember if that's from your nose or from the chief that you killed in the village. And as the wind picks up, howling across the desert, you remember the Chidi, those malignant spirits, those things that sought to corrupt you, that sought to give you the sickness. And as you look over the embers of your fire, as you look at Hiram and at Wesley as they stand and start packing their saddlebags and preparing to leave, you can't help but wonder what you've gotten yourself into. There's also a fourth person at your fire, surprisingly. Blackburn sits there, kicking at the coals with his boot, and he glances up at you and smiles. Good morning, Lance. Deputy. I must say, you sleep rather well. The peacefulness, it's good. It's not going to last, though. And he kind of looks back at the fire.
Look up to see if anyone around the fire notices him also.
Not at all.
Just kind of nod my head and with a groan stand up, look to Hiram and Wesley, say, I gotta go take a leak. Be right back. Walk over to like a water stream or something if there is any. Probably not. I guess he said it's a desert, but just head over by myself, see if he follows.
Yeah, he would kind of like shout after you for a second before following and just yell, "Why not talk to me here? Afraid they'll think you're crazy? You're no fun." And he'd stand up and start walking after you. You hear the click of his boots on the sand and on the dirt, rocks skittering in your wake.
So what are you, some kind of ghost or something here to haunt me?
Think of me more like a fairy godmother. I'm here to answer questions, give advice.
You haven't answered shit.
Oh, I'm also here to be a pain in the ass.
Well, you're quite good at that.
I know. Had a lot of practice.
Mm-hmm. So, what kind of wisdom you're going to bestow on me this fine morning?
Oh, no. I'm just here to enjoy the morning with you. No wisdom to bestow.
So it's going to be a constant thing, you watching me sleep and fucking being here every morning? It's going to get
maybe,
real old.
Maybe. If it bothers you, then maybe. Sure.
All right, Blackburn. I don't got time for this.
And he'd just kind of like stand there kind of looking away from you. Mephisto's waiting.
Yeah. What's this Mephisto waiting for?
The call. And he kind of just look over at you over his shoulder and kind of give you a wink. Mephisto doesn't like to be kept waiting. And as you blink, he's gone in the next moment.
Just kind of like murmur some obscenities underneath my breath and finish my business and head back to the fire. Well, Hiram, Wes, you ready to head out? got a bit of a ride still until we get to Crow's Gulch.
Yeah, that'll be fine.
Wes would also just kind of give a silent nod before climbing up on his horse. He's like dead in the saddle. You see that he is bruised and cut up, and he's got like a chunk of flesh missing out of his leg. He's not looking very good.
Yeah, he's a tough kid though. Go over to Hiram, and you're awful quiet this morning.
Just not a morning person. Hadn't had too much coffee yet, and he kind of like jiggles a tin cup that's all beat up. Looks like it's probably been shot a couple times.
Fair enough. Me neither. Just want you to know something. I don't feel right about Matoska getting away. If I was to bring him in, I want you to know that he would have served for what he did.
Well, I guess we'll find out if that was a good decision later on.
Guess we will. Start saddling up on the horse.
Yeah. So, what's the plan? Are you guys heading straight back to Crow's Gulch, or were you planning on making a detour to the nearest crossroad?
Am I the only one that knows of this crossroad shenanigans, or like we haven't discussed this as a group or not yet?
No, you guys have not discussed the crossroad yet.
Yeah. Wes, Lance already doesn't have a good feeling about this. He wants to ask Hiram about it, but he has a sneaking suspicion that he doesn't want to know the answers that Hiram might have. So he's going to also kind of be abnormally quiet and just trail back, looking at Crow's Gulch from a distance.
Okay, so you guys, if I understand correctly, that means you're heading towards Crow's Gulch.
Yeah, I imagine there's a crossroad somewhere around there that's close by anyways, right?
Yeah, probably. There's one in the center of town, but I'm pretty sure you don't want to.
Oh yeah, that seems like a great place.
Okay, all right. You do
at least I can scream loud when something bad happens to me. And
something like that, I guess. Yeah, so you guys can make your way back towards Crow's Gulch then. You would, it's obviously a couple of hours on horseback to make your way back there. But the desert just seems abnormally quiet, chill. The dregs of the storm from the day before, the wind kind of gusting over the landscape, kind of catching up sagebrush and tumbleweeds and casting dirt into the air. You quickly find that you want to keep your handkerchiefs up around your mouth to avoid the worst of the grit. But as you make your way back to the east, moving towards Crow's Gulch, we're going to switch over to Matoska. Matoska, you awaken in the morning, similar state, freezing cold, and near a cold fire. The last embers and charcoals flickering out. And you would see, to your surprise, that Katori is kind of like snuggled up against you. The night before, she kind of slept on the opposite side of the fire because she still doesn't trust you, I guess, to an extent. But it got too much for her, so she's kind of like near you, absorbing body heat for essentially.
Matoska would try to get up without waking her up. Last night we had a few provisions left from the village, but our hunting wasn't too successful. So he would sort of make sure she's covered up in whatever blankets they were able to salvage from the village and go off. Probably he's pretty proficient in survival, so maybe hunt like a few small woodland creatures and grill them up by the fire, make breakfast while she's sleeping.
Yeah, as you're doing all of this, you manage to catch like a rabbit or some like other small game. You would see that there's kind of like this a a hawk kind of sitting on one of these like scrubby trees that kind of dot the wasteland, and it's just kind of staring at the two of you. It doesn't move. You know it's cold in the morning, but it's just kind of standing there. It would just watch you as you go about your business, and it even tries to steal one of your rabbits. But it's just kind of eyeing you guys by the fire.
I would kind of Matoska might save, a little piece of rabbit meat and kind of hold it up for the hawk.
Yeah, it would kind of like look at you, like circle overhead a bit, and then lightning quick, just dive in and scoop it out of like your hand, like tearing it free, and take off again back to the tree and start eating it.
And he would just sort of bow his head in respect.
Yeah, and the hawk eats, and then takes off and flies east.
Once breakfast is ready, I would wake Katori up.
Yeah, she would kind of like sit up, eyes groggy, kind of rubbing the grit and the sleep from her eyes, and like look at you, not comprehending for a second. And this is probably the first time you've actually seen her looking normal, like a normal girl little girl should look. But then you see that the memories kind of start setting back in, and her eyes kind of water for a second before she kind of wipes them on like her dirty sleeve, and stands and walks over to the fire. Kind of this rigid impassivity on her face.
Yep. And Matoska's kind of crouched down by the fire in this sort of Native American crouch resting stance, and hands out a piece of cooked rabbit meat to her and kind of goes, "Eat. You will need strength."
She would hesitate briefly and then look at it and look at you and just snatch it out of your hand, much like the hawk, and just gobble it down. And roll me perception as she kind of walks back over to the sleeping mats.
That is not bad at all. 16.
At the very least, she's starting to trust you because she whispers a thank you under her breath as she walks back. Only just loud enough for you to hear it.
And I say, "You're welcome, little hawk," and kind of just smile to myself at my own joke. Because she wasn't awake when the hawk was coming. So
yeah, for sure. She would kind of like give you this look, like, what is that supposed to mean? And then just kind of just like shrugs and goes back and rolls up the sleeping mat that you provided for her, kind of rolling it into a bundle and attaching it back to this kind of makeshift set pack she has on her back.
Well, we have a big day ahead of us. We must find Mawaki. We have a lot of ground to cover and no leads. He kind of looks down and shakes his head. But I suppose this direction is as good as any. And so he's just going to try to... His plan right now is to wake up every morning and wander through... Are we in... This is like a deserty area, right? So we can see pretty far?
Yeah, I mean, it's like think of it kind of like lowlands. So there's a little bit hilly, but it's mostly flat.
Yeah. So,
well, question: what was Milwaukee's animal?
She was. I don't know if I decided that in my backstory.
Okay. What do you think then? Do you think she's more of like a... Like, what would you say she was?
I would imagine her probably as like a fox.
A fox? Okay. Okay.
Or yeah.
Yeah. So
it's part of a desert area. I don't know exactly what these animals are called, but those cat creatures that live in the desert. Is feline
like a lynx?
Yeah.
Okay.
Depending, like if our valley, if our hidden valley was more of this same type of terrain, then maybe that would be more adapted.
So like okay, so like a desert cat, basically, like a
yeah, like a desert cat.
Okay, yeah, that's perfect. So she would kind of like whisper again, barely. Now that you're listening, though, now that you know that she's like too quiet to like talk all like right out, like she still kind of like has a hard time. But she would whisper in her breath as you say, like, "Oh, well, we don't really have a direction." I had a dream last night.
Oh. Would you like to tell me about it while we walk?
And she kind of like shuffle her feet, looking down at her hands. You see that her face is just grime. It's just covered in grime with trails where the tears have gone down, making little clean furrows. She would kind of like look down at her hands. They're just as dirty, dirt caked under the fingernails. She'd look up at you, just through the scratches, through the dirt, through the tears. I saw there was what are their names? They're not cats. It's
A
my
lynx.
mother. That yes, a lynx. That it was walking. There were mountains, hills, and at the top of one of these mountains there was a cave, but not a cave made by people,
Mm.
and it went into the mountain. And this cat, it went into the mountain, going through this cave, and I followed it, but not before I walked through a dead village. But in the cave there was this owl, this huge owl, and it tried to eat me. And she starts to cry again, and my mother and my father are dead at its feet, and she like starts to break down a little bit, just tears falling freely.
Do not fear, little one. Matoska will protect you. This lynx, she is a friend of mine, an old friend. She means us no harm.
I don't know, because the lynx attacked me too.
He kind of shakes his head. Troubling. Very troubling.
But I recognize the village. I've been there before.
Do you know the name of this village?
No, I was very young, but it's at the base of the Blue Mountain, and she kind of like point, and you see there's this like kind of like just to the north, basically of Crow's Gulch, maybe a little bit back inside the mountain range. You kind of come down into the foothills. There's this huge mountain, the tallest one of all of them, and at the top of it, I mean, it looks blue, just as the sun and the shadow kind of rises, casting a shadow over the valley. The side that you're looking at looks almost blue.
Matoska slowly nods and says, well, if your vision is a thing that is yet to come, perhaps we can help these people before their village is destroyed. And if it is of the past, perhaps we can help any survivor.
She would kind of nod, kind of wiping the tears in her nose, before taking a deep breath. You see, she would kind of grab something like a. There's a necklace kind of hanging on this buckskin cord around her neck, and she kind of hold it for a second, kind of closing her eyes, and like start walking after you, following you in that direction. We're gonna swap back over to the other group. As you guys make your way towards Crow's Gulch, you would see that there's a lot of smoke, like more smoke than you would imagine, rising up from the area surrounding Crow's Gulch, not from Crow's Gulch proper. But you know that there are farmlands that kind of extend out around this city for quite a while, quite a distance.
Probably be time to kick it into high gear. You hear Lance mumble under his breath, "Son of a bitch," and then kick his horse to a full trot. hopefully get over that ridge and get a good look at Crow's Gulch.
Yeah, as you kind of crest the ridge, kind of coming up, looking down onto the town, onto the city, you see that kind of Crow's Gulch rests on like the side of this mountain, kind of right next to the gulch, the gorge that you know about. And these farmlands kind of extend out around it, and for miles. You see that there are kind of a couple of fires that the smoke drifts into the air, snail trail like. A black cloud kind of pluming upwards. You would see that there are people kind of armed with all manner of weapons, rifles, shotguns, pistols, kind of busily putting out what fires are left. But not nearly as many people as you'd expect trying to fight these fires.
Look back to the two gentlemen on their horses and just give them a hand wave as we quickly trot into city, I imagine. See if we can find the sheriff first. See what the hell is going on.
Looks like they could use a hand. And he kind of like digs into the horse a little bit to catch up.
Ain't gonna be building more than just a barn.
Well, it's good that we have experts. And he kind of smiles over towards the young boy and like realizes he's on the blind side and kind of chuckles to himself because the gesture of camaraderie is completely missed.
Yeah, as you approach the fields, you're like, oh, maybe they need some help. You'd see them kind of like glance up at you as you approach. All of them would kind of lift their weapons. One of them would kind of like wave them down. You recognize him. It's Samuel. Samuel will kind of like approach you guys as you're moving through this kind of road on fields on either side of you, extending as far as you can see. He would kind of approach, glancing up at you guys. Well, you're back quick. What'd you find out? You were going to the village, right?
I would Samuel's just the gatekeeper, right?
Yeah, but he's like over the gatekeepers essentially. So like he's like head of the guard, essentially is what you could call him.
Found a whole lot of work. And nothing too promising. What's going on here?
So came again, attacked everywhere at once, actually. All the northern, western, and eastern fields. At least the south was spared, but it burned down quite a bit, as you can see. And you kind of like nod off towards the side. You'd see like burned husks of wheat and corn. You'd see the ground is just littered with ash. You would kind of just shake his head. I don't understand. You've been so peaceful till now. I just don't get it. Carried a bunch of people off too.
Sounds like a lot of them. Anyone get a good count?
You look over at one of the guys who's kind of like cleaning. Hey Butch, we know how many there were. And you kind of yell back, I don't know, maybe 80, 90. Quite a few. And that was just on the north side. More than any one village has, that's for sure.
Where's the sheriff? He's around here?
He would just kind of nod. He was busy. Last I heard, he was busy questioning that one fellow you guys brought in. Long Spear, I think his name was.
All right.
Yeah.
You guys got a hold on this, or you need an extra hand?
If you could talk to Balance to send some more people down here, it'd be helpful. But we got them most under control.
Yep. That's one thing on the list of jobs to do today. When we get up there, I'll mention they could use another hand or two.
And he kind of just nods. Thank you kindly. And you kind of go back to the rest of them and start shouting orders. They've put out another fire. One of the houses has been burned down. And they kind of move off to a different field, a different home. You notice Wesley immediately looking at these people. That not one of them are the farmers. Not one. They're all guards for the Boutons or people who live inside the city proper. So and immediately like tips you off like a big time.
Mr. Sheriff, Deputy, sir. None of these folk are us farmers. What do you reckon that means?
Well, Wes, I
Did they not make it back here?
I don't reckon it means anything good.
They're fine, right?
Just kind of give you a stern look, and I'm not sure, boy. I'm not sure.
He looks pensively. I mean, as pensively as he can, just down at the reins of his saddle, of this horse he's riding, worried and confused, and just trying to puzzle this together. He's realized what it means, but it's just hard for him to admit it. Well, best not keep them boughton folk waiting.
Yeah, I suppose not. I'll stop quickly at the sheriff's office if that's along the way.
Yeah, that's right along the way.
All right, kind of tie up the horse and push my way in through the door. See what old sheriff's up to.
Yeah, you would see the sheriff kind of coming out of his office, just shaking his head, and he'd glance up and see you. Good, you're back. We need you now more than ever. And you kind of start to walk past you out the door.
Yeah, follow him. What the hell's going on here? So attacking again? What kind of force is this? It sounds like they brought an army.
And he would kind of like stop and look at you, and glance at the two who are with you, at Hiram and Connor. I mean, not Connor, Wesley. And he'd kind of like kind of put an arm around your shoulder and kind of walk you back into his office, shutting the door behind him. Look, boy, something is hell wrong. Very, very wrong. These so don't look normal. Something's wrong with them. Something deeply wrong. Okay? I was out there. I was fighting them. I was trying to kill them. And the bastards wouldn't go down. I shot one of them 2, maybe 3 times. Still kept coming at me. I barely made it out. They had these black lines spreading up their necks. These dead eyes. I felt like I was fighting the dead. They didn't even seem to flinch when I shot them. No pain.
What chased them off then? They just had their fill and left?
I guess so. A fire started up. They weren't doing fire originally. The smoke got too heavy. I don't know. They just left. They carried off.
How many?
You look out the door. It's like there's like a window on his door, and you can see kind of like Wes and Hiram in there. Everyone in the northern, western, eastern fields gone, either dead or taken. Look, that boy's family, everyone is gone.
Just kind of stare at him for a second, and then in a fit kind of just like punch the side of the wall. Like, God damn it. I mean, none of us could do anything.
I told you, I shot one 3 times, put 3 bullets in him. 2 gut shots, 1 in the shoulder. Didn't even feel it. Didn't stumble, didn't stagger, didn't stop running.
You sent word out to the other peacekeepers? We need reinforcements. If they're bringing an army.
I sent word to Smokeholm. I'm hoping they can send us something. A regiment, maybe. Even just a squad of peacekeepers. Another sheriff. Anything.
We need more than that. Send out any possible connections that you can. Rally as many men as you can.
Most peacekeepers won't come here, boy. And you know that.
Well, you make them come here, Sheriff. Trust me. This is bigger than you understand. Do what you can. Be a sheriff. And I'll kind of walk out the door.
Yeah, you'd feel a hand slap on your shoulder and he'd turn you around. What happened out of the village, too?
They're
I
all
know the
dead.
mountain sent you out there. What happened?
They're all
What'd you
dead.
find? Everyone?
Only one little girl got away with Matoska, but that's a long story.
He just kind of bow his head just under his breath, just shit, and just kind of like spin around, like rubbing at his temple.
Going to talk to the Bowtons, see if they have any strings that they could pull. As much as I hate to even think of that concept, I think we're under war right now, and the force that we're facing is something that you can't comprehend.
Yeah, he would kind of just nod at this as you're saying all this, and he look you in the eyes. There's another thing too. The oasis is almost dry.
In just 3 days? How's that possible?
I don't know. I don't have the hands and the helpers to sort this out. I know the Boughton said they were going to do something about it. I saw them sent a group up in the mountains. Samuel was with them.
All right. I got a plan. I don't know if it's going to do anything, but you need to get more men here. You need to do everything that you possibly can. You were a legend back in your time. You must have some strings you can pull.
Maybe I can convince some of the sheriffs nearby to come. I know that we're right next to a train route. Maybe we can get them to come on horseback from there. We're isolated, though. We can't get help for a few days. And that's if they all come immediately without discussing it. And you know how politics works. They'll talk about it and talk about it. Once they come to a decision, it'll be too late.
Yeah, I'll just look at him like, listen, Sheriff, I don't give a damn about politics. You just do what you can, and I'm going to do the same.
He would just kind of nod and turn back to like a bunch of papers on his desk. That man, that's so Longspear. He keeps screaming something about how it's her fault. You have any idea what that means?
Shake my head. Not even the slightest of clues.
I don't know. He keeps screaming something about a mother owl. How she's to blame.
If only I had someone here that could understand what he was saying. Got business to take care of, though.
You just nod. All right, get on it then. I'm expecting reports, though, end of every day.
You just hear the response of the kind of doors flapping back and forth.
Yeah. This is strange for you because this is the most authority you've ever seen the sheriff talk with. Like, the most into it he's ever been. So, like,
Yeah.
It's like a grain of hope for you in a weird way.
Yeah. Only it's a little too late.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd look to Hiram and Wesley, and well, we got to report into the Boatlands.
Hiram takes a long drag off his cigarette. He says, yeah, but did it get any worse in there? I mean, it's pretty much shit out here, but
Look at you and say, didn't get any better in the slightest. And I'll just give you those eyes like you don't actually want to know how bad it is. And then maybe like dart off towards Wesley's direction to hopefully have that like communication silent. Like, I'll tell you later.
yeah. Okay. So, yeah, the Hirams are up the not the Hirams, the Bowtons are up the hill. So, I think I'll get back to my horse because it at this point we might as well take the speed.
Yeah. Agreed. Hopping back on the horse, unless anyone else has anything to do. I'd like to look to you, Hiram, and are you gonna say anything? I need to know if I'm walking into a shitstorm or what when we get in there.
At this point, your guess is as good as mine, but I think we're a little bit outgunned and a little bit outmaneuvered on this one. This is too much damage for two. And then he kind of like Glances over. 3 Reapers.
I mean more about Matoska, though. If you tell them, then they're going to do everything they can to come after me and
I know,
Matoska.
I know you're new to this whole Reaper thing, but Pinkering would have you believe it works one way. I'm going to tell you it works another, and you're going to have to find your own way. That's kind of the way the Reapers operate. I believe that your choices are yours, and if there is a consequence to the choice you made, you're going to find it out one way or another. Ultimately, you're going to be the man that has to cast that bullet one way or another. I won't say anything. If you think that you want to give him your personal protection, I've learned to trust you, at least when it comes to spiritual matters. We're talking about law and what I may or may not have been involved in. I may not trust your opinion as much. He kind of says with a smile. But if you give Matoska a pass, there's got to be a reason behind it, and
Yeah.
I'm not here to judge you on it.
Appreciate that. But he hasn't got a pass. He's got to answer for what he did. It's just not the time right now. We're at war with whatever this is. The last thing we need is the Boutons out for revenge.
As far as I'm aware, it's an unsolved case. But one day the Boutons may figure it out themselves. Albeit, I'll be pretty impressed if they do.
Just give you like a thanks, Hiram. You're not so bad after all, I guess.
I may have to change your opinion on that one. We got other things to do right now. And he digs into the horse again to kind of pick up its pace.
Yeah, as you move deeper into the center of town, the signs of coming conflict become more prominent. You would see people are boarding up the windows to their houses. You would see that any goods that were originally like sitting outside, you see empty clotheslines. You see barrels that were once sitting on landings have been rolled inside. You see that people have boarded up doors for the most part too. You see, you'd hear the of a hammer on nails. Just people are preparing for the worst, for what's coming. And as you kind of approach the center of town, kind of turning left to go up the hill towards the mountains, you would see that there's now this kind of elaborate, like it's like a huge well essentially. There's this they built this like almost like an H-looking structure over the entire oasis with a pulley that kind of goes down into it, and a little boardwalk thing, a walkway that kind of goes out for people to get water. You see somebody cranking it, and this little kind of this big bucket kind of goes down, and then him and like 3 other men kind of like rotate it again to bring it back up. People are filling up their water, and you see them filling up barrels and stockpiling it all as much as they can. A look of desperation and fear on people's faces.
That's not good. If this doesn't get solved soon, the whole town's gone. Or at least those that are smart enough to get out.
At this point, I think I couldn't tell them that it wasn't a smart thing to get out while they still can. But I'm a deputy around here and got to see what I can do to save this place.
Let's quit wasting time. Let's get up there.
Yep. I don't have anything else to do besides get up there.
Yeah, that's fine. You guys continue up the hill, moving alongside kind of this empty oasis now, past the stables where the explosion was, past the crow's den, and eventually you reach the top of the hill, the huge manor, looking like a sea of luxury in a field of fear. The people at the gate kind of like look at you, Hiram, and they just nod. They don't even ask you why you're who you are. They know who you are, and they've had orders to just let you in. So they open the gate, just let you ride right in. People still watch you uneasily, and the gate was shut behind you almost immediately.
once inside the gate, I'll dismount and just take off my weapons. Because I've got the medium revolver. It's at a saddle holster, so it's easier to draw while I'm riding. I'll go ahead and take that off and throw it inside a leg holster. Well, all right. Let's go see what they have to say about everything. Are there any guards that can spare right now? Town can use any bit of help you guys can offer.
Yeah, you would see there are a couple of guards, kind of just like on break or something similar to that, sitting and playing cards or throwing dice. And they'd kind of like look up at you, like a little bit obstinate at first. Then they'd recognize who you are, and they know that you have the good grace of the Boughtons. And they kind of like look at each other and just kind of like shrug and stand up.
I'm
So
not
like four
asking you
guards.
guys to rebuild any houses or anything crazy. Just help them put out some fires.
Yeah, the four just kind of nod. It's like, yeah, whatever you say, Hiram. And they kind of head down into the town. You see, they act indifferent, but there's a fear in their eyes too. They don't know what's happening. They don't know what's going on. They don't know why the water's disappearing or why everything's burning or why the Soa are attacking. They're just as confused and scared as the town people, and you see that in a brief moment of clarity.
All right, let's go find somebody to talk to. I think Mrs. Bowden should still be in at least.
And you guys make your way up the landing. The stairs feeling hollow beneath your feet. And the doors kind of like the house like porter or whatever would kind of like notice you guys approaching and open the door for you, letting you in. The master is in the dining room, you would say.
Uncharacteristically, Hiram does not remove his hat when entering the indoors.
Yeah.
He's a little out of sorts, and that's kind of a tall tale sign for anybody who knows him.
Yeah, so you guys can enter. The porter would tell you guys that the master's in the dining room, and he would ask for you to clean your boots before entering.
Do so.
Yep. I'll kind of whisper to Hiram that I'll follow your lead on this one.
All right, so clean up.
Like
head in there.
I feel like Wesley would scrub his shoes a little bit too much. Like, oh, there's still a spot here, and just keep scrubbing and scrubbing it. Sheriff, sir, is this clean enough?
Yeah, that will do, Wes.
The porter would be staring at you like you're some sort of degenerate, just like. And he'd look at you, Hiram. And then he just because he'd just be standing there holding the door while you clean your feet until finally you enter and he shut it behind you with like an exaggerated slowness. And he would take the lead and walk you guys back towards the dining room. Master Boughton, your man has returned, Hiram. And he kind of stepped to the side, like after introducing you guys and letting you in.
Who's in the room?
You would see Dennis. You'd see Lester, and that's it. And Dennis is kind of like he looks like he hasn't slept like at all. So he looks kind of just as ragged and worn as everyone else in the town. You see him; he's got a big map on the table that he's kind of looking at. Yeah, so him and Lester. Lester's bored, like he's bored, and he's spinning the chamber of his revolver as he sits there next to him.
Okay. And kind of another change of pace. Instead of calling him Mr. Bowden, because pretty much everybody's Mr. Bowden except for the patriarch of the household, who's just boss. He's going to change how he addresses him. Hey, boss, we got back, and things aren't looking good out there. Mr. Blood and Mr. Feather are both dead. And that's just kind of the tip of the iceberg, unfortunately.
You would see him. His eyes would kind of just narrow, and he'd sit back and start rubbing at his temple, as if today couldn't get any worse. And you say you have other news for me? Worse news? What is that?
There's no real leads as to what happened to your father, unfortunately. Whatever did this, the trail's kind of gone cold. The only thing I've found is some owl feathers, but I can't find any connection to any tribe that really holds owl feathers as something like a token that they hang on to.
Lance is also going to uncharacteristically kind of walk over to a shelf, and I imagine there's like a nice kind of fine whiskey in some kind of like chalice or something, and help himself to it.
Yeah, and I mean, like it's that's woefully like low on the etiquette scale, but that one doesn't say anything. Dennis doesn't say anything just because he knows that you guys are doing a service for him, so he just kind of just nods, just letting you do what you want to, basically.
I think the best thing to do is boss, I hate to say it, but I think the Oasis is gone. We need to do what we can for the people that are left here. Try and get them somewhere where they can get water. Them to keep scraping that bucket on the bottom of the mud, it's not going to do them any hope or any help, for that matter.
And he would like look up at you. You see his eyes are just like as empty as the oasis itself. And he would kind of like glance at you. The Bowtons have lived and run this city for centuries.
Boss, unless you can make water flow from dirt, I don't know that there's any choice. If you got an idea, anything, tall tale, a legend, hell, you tell me if I skin a Yeti over that thing, we'll try it. But I don't know where to go from here other than the Bowtons can have leadership anywhere they go. Leadership's about the people. It's not about the land.
He would just kind of like look down at his hands. No. No, the Bowtons aren't anything anywhere else. Sure, we have our money, but I will not. And he kind of like looks down his hand. You see his clench his fist and his grit his teeth. I will not be the Bowton that lets Crow's Gulch die.
Boss, quit being so obstinate. I mean, come on here. You stay here, Crow's Gulch will die. Crow's Gulch is the people. At least organize them, get them out of here. If you want to stay here and do what you can, I can't fault you for that. But as a leader of these people, you got to do your part.
He would like look at you. Roll me persuasion.
Okay. Woo! I'm terrible at this. A 7.
Well, you beat him. He got a 6. So he kind of like looks at you, and you see him like kind of weighing what you said. And he looks over at Lester, who's just idly spinning the chamber of his gun still. And you'd see his face harden, his lips grow like tighten and draw into a thin line. His brow would furrow, and he would just slowly nod. And he'd look at you, Hiram, and he'd say, "Tell some of the boys out at the gate to gather the people of the town. I'll talk to them, organize something. I'll invite anyone who wants to stay and try and defend their homes, and organize a caravan, something to get out of the ones who want to leave."
I mean, hell, boss, if we figure this out, we can always send word. We can bring people back. We can rebuild, but this is the best way the Bowton legacy lives. Thank you.
He would just slowly nod, and he'd look at Lester, and he'd stand up and walk over next to you, and he'd say, "I'm staying. but I want you to make sure that Lester is on one of those caravans. My mother too, and my sisters. Promise me.
Of
If you have
course.
to knock them out and throw them into the wagon, you do it.
Of course, boss. We'll carry it out exactly as you ask.
Tell them
Trying
we'll
to
meet
say,
before.
because I imagine that his back is to Lester, so that Lester can't really see what he's saying, and I'm
Yeah.
just trying to give like a generic "yep, okay, I'll do it" kind of thing. Because
Yeah.
both of us are sitting that wavelength that we're probably gonna have to knock out Lester.
Yeah, or tie him up or something. Yeah, so he'd look at you and he'd say, "Tell the boys at the gate that I'll talk to everyone at noon. That's in a couple hours to give people enough time to be there. Get
All right.
runners out to the southern fields too, so that we can talk to them."
Lance is kind of just like leaning up against the table or the cabinet with the whiskey on it, and he takes a pretty healthy drink of the cup that he's drinking out of. Sees, because I kind of feels that burn, puts it down, actually holds it up like he's going to refill it, but then instead actually takes like a swig right from the actual like canister itself, this glass like vase or whatever, and then just almost like smugly, and it is probably like a bit off-putting and like almost rude, but he's not doing it on purpose, and he just looks and, "Listen, before we send off any caravans or anything, we should probably do a scout around the perimeter of Crow's Gulch, make sure those so aren't waiting to ambush us and slaughter all those good people. We can't be doing anything too rash here." Hiram's right. I think we should get who wants to get out of here out as quick as possible, but we don't want to lose anymore.
He would just kind of nod as you say this, and look at you, Hiram. He's like, "I'll send out Samuel and some of the boys. Have them check it out."
Boss, I'm gonna call in a few favors, see if maybe we can get anybody out here, whether it's a man good with a gun or just somebody who knows a crazy witch tale or something. See if we can maybe find an answer.
And he would look at you confused. He knows you have connections, but he doesn't like quite get what you mean by the witch tale or whatever. He would just kind of like shrug and nod, and he helps. Very welcome.
So I have a question about the "they are real" background feature.
Sure.
So this would be using it kind of adjacent, and I'm hoping maybe I can get you to go for this one.
Okay.
So normally it says that I can find information on like a monster or how to hunt them, or maybe be like pointed in the right direction of where I can find said information. Could I use it to call in somebody that might be able to be like someone who actually like studies the weird phenomena that goes on near the edges of the Providence? It could maybe help us get to the bottom of why the well is drying up, because the well drying up that fast is definitely connected to supernatural. I know that the original boss Boughton died, so there's probably a connection between them, but I need somebody who's like more educated than myself from the Reapers to come out here.
Yeah, you could probably get a message out. You could talk to Pickering. He might know somebody in the near vicinity. That could get you. He could get a message too for you
if he's still around, anyways.
If he's still around, if he hasn't bailed out, yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's basically what I'm trying to set up here is to try and get somebody at least knowledgeable so that we can try and write what's going on here. Or basically Reaper law to come down and a few Reapers to clean up whoever's left in this village.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Yeah, you could talk to you could find Pickering and get him to send out a message for you to get an expert in here. One of the veteran Reapers.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to set up for. So,
okay,
when a chance we'll do a scene like that.
Okay, yeah, for sure. So he would kind of be listening to all this that you're saying, kind of just nodding along, and then he'd kind of like look over at you, Lance. Look, I don't know why any of this is happening. And you look back over at you, Hiram, and I couldn't tell you why the well is drying up. I mean, it has been filled to the brim with water for as long as I can remember, or anyone in the Mountain House can remember. And he kind of paused for a second, like there's a but, like there's something hanging in his air, in the air. Samuel did find something, though. I don't quite know what it means, but he found something. Had him and a couple of the boys follow the trail, the riverbed, all the way up the mountain. As you know, this is just kind of the last stop as it pours down the waterfall. Well, they reached the end of the riverbed, and it just ends. There's nothing there. There's no artesian spring. There's no runoff feeding into it. Nothing. It just ends. It's as if it started from nowhere. Like, I don't know what it means. I didn't have him go any further up the mountain after he found it. But it felt mighty strange up there. That's what he told me. Felt like somebody was holding their hands over your ears so you couldn't hear completely, or so that your words were muffled when you spoke. Said it was colder than it should have been too. I don't know what it means. I don't know. And you just see the helplessness. Like he does not know what's going on. He's so lost.
Well, shit. I don't even. You got me for a loss. I don't even know what to say to that. Let's worry about the caravan for now.
He would just nod, tell the boys to get the word out, talk to people at noon. And that's an obvious dismissal as he just kind of nods and walks back over to the map. You see him kind of like start looking at different roads to lead out of the city, head south.
Right. And like reflexively, Hiram goes to put his hat back on, and it's only then that he realized that he's been wearing it inside this whole time. And he kind of just shakes his head and turns to go.
Lance grabs his hat off of like a little coat hook and talks it back on. And anyone that's actually watching him, you don't know if he's doing it on purpose or if he's just absentmindedly forgot. But he just walks out with the whiskey in his hand.
Once we get kind of clear of it, Deputy, I'm going to call in some favors, and unfortunately, it might get me wrapped up in more trouble, but it might save the town. Being a Reaper does have its perks, but at the same time, hell, I'm not even going to kid with you at this point. I am an outlaw. I've done things that are outside the good graces of even Reaper law. Hell, what I told you earlier makes me an accomplice to some things that are outside the Reaper law. When this expert comes, if one does, there's a chance I might get wrapped up in something. Hopefully I can make it quick so that the expert can get here for what I need him to get here for, but just know that I might not be able to help you once he gets here.
Yeah, Lance kind of walks up a bit close to you. You can smell the whiskey on his breath, and he takes another big swig of it. And just deeply breathes out, and you just smell it on his breath, and he says to you, "Tell me, Hiram, how you always do this?"
deal with the situation, or
Listen, you said it yourself. You're a bit of a low life. I don't blame you for it or anything, but you've done things. You've probably killed people. I've been trying to put you under arrest now for God knows how many months since I got here. Yet you're always just so relaxed and calculated. How does a man like you sleep at night? You could tell that Lance is now kind of drunk, actually, which you haven't probably seen him drunk before.
Hiram says 12. I've killed 12 men. I remember all their names. How I sleep is I go through the list each night. And poorly. Why I do what I do is for those 12 men, some of which were rightfully taken care of, others were not. Ralph Holstein, Kurt Philbut, Benj Murray, Lake McLaughlin, Denny Rui, Pierce Folks, Arnold Matten, Marvin Condit, Freeman Weisenhunt, Heyman Harrell, Bernie Artlip, and last one I'm sure you remember, Dennis Brabham.
Put my arm on your shoulders, kind of like tug you in like that drunk dick guy having a bro talk. Just, why the bones? I don't get it. Why'd you sell your soul to the bones?
It's not sold. I'm doing what's needed for me. The Reapers have an interest here. It goes deeper than what you've seen yet. Botans are important. I don't know the details of it, but I know that I was told to get in with them and be ears. If I get wrapped up, that's going to be your responsibility.
All right. Thank you for that, Hiram. Got my own plans too, so whatever we both get wrapped up in, know that I was glad to have you by my side these last couple days.
All right. Let's get the boys focusing on their tasks.
So as you guys kind of start organizing the guards, sending them out in groups to spread the word and to help on the farm and the fields outside, we're going to swap over to Matoska again, who continues to make his way ever eastward towards the Blue Mountain. Katori kind of stumbles along next to you. You can tell she's tired, exhausted. Your long strides far outstrip her fast, quick ones, and she's breathing heavily, though she does not complain. She refuses to complain.
I would notice this and reach down, reach out, hand her a water skin. There's probably not much left in it. Drink.
She would take it from you and look at the water skin, and you see like her fingers are like trembling as she takes it and takes a drink of the water. 2 big gulps before she realizes that this is like all you guys have. So she stops, puts the cap back on. You see her looking at it longingly. She holds it back, hands it back to you.
I would take it back, but I wouldn't drink from it. I'd just put it back, even though my mouth is parched. And I would say, we must press on. There is little time to waste. And yeah, we're on foot. We've been walking for a while now, right?
Yeah, you've been walking for quite some time. It's like you see the sun is now like well in the sky. It's not noon yet, but you guys have been walking for like a good maybe 3-4 hours.
And I see this mountain in the distance. Am I able to judge how long it's going to take to get there?
You figure if you keep up this quick pace, maybe by the end of the day you'll reach the base of it.
But I'm aiming for the village. That's the village that's at the base of the mountain.
Yeah, at the base of the mountain. Yeah.
I kind of look down and say, if we can move fast, we will be at the village by nightfall.
And she would just kind of wearily nod, kind of reach out. You see there's like this scraggy willow tree that you guys are passing. It's barely surviving as it clings to the mountainside. And she would kind of walk up to it and like scrape some of the bark off with like this like little crude knife that she has. And she put it in her mouth and start chewing it. And she look at you and like pull some of it off and offer it to you. I don't know if you know the medicinal properties of this. You can roll if you think you want to. Nature, you might. But she would offer it to you. My mom, whenever somebody got hurt, she would help my dad to take care of them, and he always said that one of the best treatments, and you kind of look at this, is just to numb the pain, especially when there's nothing that can be done. She'd always give him willow bark.
Matoska nods and says, take a little extra for later.
Yeah, so she would scrape a bunch of the bark off and put it in like a little pouch, this like pouch she carries on her waist.
Awesome. But he wouldn't take any for now. He's a pretty strong dude. He's tough.
Yeah.
He can march the whole day without needing that.
Okay, so we're gonna fast forward another like 2 hours of walking. I want you to roll me a con save for exhaustion.
No problem. Just look at my con save. +5. 20 + 5.
You got that 20?
Yep.
Yeah, dude, you're good. You're just you feel revitalized, honestly, by this walk. Actually, like you've been among society for so long that you've forgotten what it feels like to be out here, to be a part of this wide world, the beauty that the settlers, the Providencers, can't see. And you just feel refreshed until you hear the thump behind you as Katori falls to the ground. You see that she's like shaking. You see that her lips are chapped from lack of water, though you've been giving it to her like a little, like fairly constantly. But she's not used to travel like this, and she toughed it through earlier, but she has 2 points of exhaustion now as she collapses to the ground.
Matoska would sort of sigh and say, you must learn to be strong, little one. But now is not the time for that. Now is the time for speed. And he kind of reaches down and just picks her up. And he's just going to carry her on his back and keep walking. It's really important for him to reach this village as fast as possible. And he's hoping that maybe her dream wasn't something that's already come to pass, and that there'll be. And this is the village that she described to me was a So village, right?
Yes.
Okay, so he's hoping that he's going to be able to drop her off there, and leave her with her own people and with help, and that he will be able to continue on from then on. But staying multiple nights out here in the desert, in the wilderness, doesn't really seem like the best option. So he's just going to pick her up and carry her the rest of the way. Or at least until she's feeling better and she can walk again. Oh, you're muted.
Okay, yeah, no, that's fine, perfect. Yeah, you can pick her up and start carrying her. So I'm going to go fast forward again till noon. When noon arrives, the sun's high in the sky now, directly overhead. The heat is at its greatest point. I need you to make me another con save. This time the DC will be a little bit higher, and you'll have disadvantage from carrying her.
All right. No problem.
Okay.
That's both of those 2 dice are both natural ones.
Okay. The sun is just like beating on your back like a hammer on an anvil. You feel it just weighing on you. You feel it weighing on your arms as you carry her. You feel it on your back from this pack that you're carrying, as well with what few provisions you have. Everything just gets heavier and heavier and heavier, and your mouth gets drier. So you're forced to take a sip of water. The water does very little for you, and you want more, but you know that if you drink as much as you can right now, it's not going to help you at all. It's going to make things worse. So you force yourself to ration it, and your body just gets sluggish and heavy. And you're that freedom that you sensed earlier, that amazing wonder of being back out in the world, it starts to fade as the harsh reality sets in. But as you kind of crest a hill, kind of your feet dragging a little bit, roll me a perception check before you crest it.
Natural 1.
You're starting to hallucinate as you realize now that you're very dehydrated. But you start to hallucinate, your vision kind of going a little bit fuzzy, and as you crest the top of the hill, you see a long caravan of people marching past you. They have not noticed you, but you see them kind of poking and prodding a bunch of people with spears and with other weapons, making them move towards the base of the Blue Mountain. From where you are, you can't make out details, but you can tell that there are Soan Providencers.
I would drop down because I don't want to. If I crested a hill, I don't want to be like a silhouette on the horizon that these people are able to see. So I would kind of crouch low to the ground, but I'm so exhausted that I'd probably like sort of stumble over and rest down on one shoulder. And I would sort of wake Katori up, give her a tiny bit of water, what I could spare, and sort of point. Do you see that?
Her eyes are a little bit fuzzy. You see her wipe the grit out of the corners of them and kind of like shake her head and look. And she would like frown and like nod. And you see her get a little bit excited because she sees her people and she starts to stand to her feet.
I sort of push her, grip her down and say, be careful. Something seems wrong. I'm tired. I can't think straight, but something does not seem right about this thing.
She like looks at you confused and looks back at the people. But those are my people. They're the So. And she look at them, and she start to frown because she sees something that you can't somehow. Like your eyes are fuzzy. You're tired. You're dehydrated. But she sees something and slowly like kind of falls down into the dirt next to you.
What is it?
They have these lines on their necks. They don't look normal. They're walking weird, and all those people that they're pushing along, they're women and chill. Why are they? And she'd look at you confused. We don't attack them. Why are they attacking them?
He kind of shakes his head. Chief Ahagi had the same black lines, right?
Yeah, like all along his neck and on his face. It became more like visible as the longer he was fighting you guys, basically.
He kind of shakes his head and says, the black lines, they anger the spirits somehow. The men that have them are not themselves. Chief Ahagi had the same ones, and he was driven mad. I do not want to interact with these men. But we will soon both die here if we do not get water.
And she would look at you like, what are you suggesting, basically?
He kind of looks down and takes a look at maybe what they have in the grime that's sort of on her, and I am big. I stand out. You are small. Perhaps if they think you are one of them, you can get into the caravan and take some of their water.
And you see like fear like go across her face. Like she's like,
I say, fear not, little hawk. I know you can do this thing. And he would sort of reach down, and if there's any sort of like, I know we're probably both kind of grimy, but maybe he would take some of the bark that she took earlier and like try to scratch a few lines maybe around her neck to sort of emulate
mm.
the dark lines that those guys have. I don't know if there's anything on us that, like maybe some charcoal or something like that.
Would you you had a fire that night? Would you have taken any of the coals to start an easier fire the next day?
Probably. Maybe.
You could probably count that then.
And so I would try to trace these black lines onto her and onto myself, and say, we can approach together. We can approach together, but I am not one for sneaking. You will have to do the deed yourself. I will be right there if you get into trouble. I will help.
Okay. So you're doing this then?
Yeah, we're gonna
Okay.
try to because we're stranded in the middle of the desert, right? We're out of water, we're both exhausted, and we're basically fucked if we don't get any water or something.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and take a quick 5-minute break before we do this. Actually, roll me performance first as you approach. Performance or deception?
And believe it or not, I have deception as a skill.
Okay, go ahead and roll me deception then.
Chief Ahagi, so I'm going to try that. I've got a magnificent +1, and that's a 16 on the die +1.
Okay, let me roll for Katori. Oh, she nat 20s. Holy crap. Okay. Let's go ahead and take a quick 5-minute break then to go to the bathroom and get your drink, whatever, and we'll be right back.
All right. See you guys in a sec. What's up, everybody?
Nothing much. Just preparing to whoop on you guys for trying to steal from these corrupted so.
Matoska has the absolute worst plans when it comes to sneaking.
Oh, man.
Can't believe I rolled 3 natural ones in a row.
Yeah, that was tough, dude. That was brutal.
Luckily 2 of them were on a roll with disadvantage and not advantage. Because rolling that on advantage would be the worst.
Yeah, that would be much worse. I agree. This is turning out to be a good session. It's interesting. A lot of stuff going on.
So how many of these guys are there?
There's like a long caravan line. You never took the time to count them.
Nope.
But you would probably assume more than you can fight.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yo, yo. So you guys come here often? No? Okay, good.
I'm thinking about what my plan is going to be. Like,
You mean besides sending a little girl to do your dirty work?
she's got potential, man.
Okay. All right, potential.
I know potential when I see it.
Oh, I see. You mean like the potential to beat a man across the head so that he doesn't notice you when you slip back out the window that was closed?
Same type of potential.
Okay. All right, good. In my opinion, that sounds like the wrong kind of potential, but I mean, like, you do you, dude.
Well, I did bring a barbarian to the table, so.
Fair enough.
What's up,
Hey, there he is. You took my spot this time as being the last one back.
Yeah, I was flipping some laundry, all right?
You were flipping some laundry?
I was adulting.
Laundry.
Jeez. Who flips laundry these days? My word.
Right? Tell me about it.
All right. So let's go ahead and get back into this then. Matoskin.
Oh, back to me?
Yeah, we're starting with you, baby. I want to see how this plan plays out. You guys approach the caravan. You get cursory glances, people looking at you briefly before they turn back to the caravan itself. And you easily merge up alongside them. As you get closer, you see that they have these kind of like these blank stares. Their eyes just seeing but not seeing. Really, all they see are their prisoners who they push along ahead of them. Though some of them would kind of like glance at you from time to time, but not really do anything.
I try to match the same blank stares. I try to match their gait. She had said there's something weird about the way they were walking.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's like shuffling rather than walking.
Yeah, so we kind of just join sort of from the back, I guess, just shuffling along, acting like all the other drones. And for maybe, I know we're both exhausted, so we're shuffling anyways. It's tough for us to keep with these guys, but I figure with all the women and children, they can't be going at too fast a pace if they don't want them all to die. I also figure that if they're marching through the desert at high noon with a bunch of Providencers that they seem to be wanting to keep alive as prisoners, they're probably having to give them water and perhaps drink water themselves. So during those 15 minutes, I want to be pretending to just shuffle along with a blank stare, but carefully observing where the water is kept in the group and how it gets distributed to the people who need it.
You see, they also have these big wagons that they're kind of pushing along that are just filled with like provisions and items, water, food, valuables, etc. They all look like they've been stolen from the Providencers, but they kind of push these carts along, kind of towards the middle of the caravan itself. You would see occasionally when one person kind of staggers a little bit too much, falling to their knee, they turn around, walk to the center of the line, or speed up and walk to the center of the line and get water or food. Occasionally, kind of passing along these like they've taken like pots and pans and everything, which they fill with water and just kind of pass along as makeshift cups down the line.
So they themselves are also drinking.
Yes, occasionally, not nearly as often as the Providencers, but yes, occasionally.
Awesome. So here's my plan. If we're able to do this, I think we're definitely advancing at a much slower pace now than we were before because we're having to keep pace with the women and children instead of just like Matoska booking it as fast as he can. So with the regular, semi-regular supplies of water that are going down the line for the, are these Senai?
No. Nope.
I don't know what these are called, right? The drones?
No, you have no idea what these are. The drones, no. You have no
Okay,
idea.
I'm going to call them the drones. So as they're passing water down, we will just partake in that. And I kind of want to just follow this caravan and see where they're going.
Yeah, that's fine.
I assume they're sort of traveling towards the Blue Mountain or the
Yes,
village?
they're traveling towards the mountain, exactly.
Yep. So Matoska's plan right now is to just shuffle along and stick it out with these guys and potentially infiltrate.
Uh-huh. Okay. Yeah, you shuffle along with the drones and with the marching line of women and children and older men who probably couldn't have fought back. And as you're kind of walking along with them, suddenly you hear a scream, and you see one of the old men kind of stumble and fall to his knees out of the line. Up to this point, nobody stumbled. Anyone who's kind of like looked like they're getting tired or weak, either like when a mother's picked up a child or like they've been like kind of like they just push through. But this old man collapsed on the side of the path, and you see a woman, probably like his daughter or something, like screaming and yelling for him to get up, please get up. And you see him just stay there on his knees on the ground, and just without hesitation, one of the warriors, one of these so walking past, just spears him through the back, pinning him to the ground, and then pulling the spear out, and then walking still, just leaving the body on the trail. It passes alongside you, his hand outstretched, reaching towards nothing, as the ground is stained red beneath him.
Damn. Do I recognize these people? Are they people that I saw when I was in Providence or met?
I mean, there
I
might be
wasn't there
some
for a while.
familiar-ish. There might be some familiar-ish faces. These are all people from Crow's Gulch.
I do know Wesley's mom. Do I recognize her?
Roll me a perception check as you scan the group.
11.
You don't see her. So no, you don't see her at all.
All right. Matoska kind of winces as the man gets speared through, but he knows there's nothing he can do about this right now.
Okay.
Intervening would just cause more trouble. But as that happens, he kind of, as discreetly as possible, covers Katori's eyes as they walk past. That the gruesome sight of this man just reached out and just bleeding out. As he passed them, he kind of just shields her eyes from that. And
Yeah, you see his fingers would be shaking, and then there'd be this one last gasp as a little bit more blood just burbles out of his lips, and he just kind of falls still. His hands just like slackening. You continue along, moving with this group, and a shadow would pass overhead, kind of blocking the sun for a brief moment. And if you were to look up, you'd see a hawk. That hawk, kind of circling overhead. It just flies in these big, broad circles above. And eventually you'd see it kind of like come down and land on the ground next to the caravan itself, just right next to it. And right before your eyes, it changes into a person.
in front of everyone?
Yeah.
Oh, shit. How is everyone else reacting?
The women and children, they don't seem surprised. It seems like they've seen this. Whereas at the same moment that it turns into like this person, all of the so kind of turn their heads and just briefly nod.
Oh,
And it
God.
is the one at the very bottom, the second one, not the one with the owl mask, the other one. Kind of a hawkish looking mask as it kind of stands to its full height. It's wearing kind of this long flowing robes, these huge feathers on it, kind of a fur skin draped over its shoulders.
Shit. And it's female?
Yeah, well, you can't really tell,
Because of the mask?
like because of the mask and because of the very like heavy, obscuring clothing.
Oh, shit. Okay, well, I try to, probably a little bit late, do the same thing as everyone else is doing.
Mm-hmm.
And just hoping that this is not the hawk from before and that she's going to recognize me.
Oh, it was totally the hawk from before, dude.
I recognize the hawk?
Yeah. Well, I mean, like it's got the hawk you saw was very distinctive. Like it had kind of like that same red like tinge to it, a very rare one in this part. So I mean, you would assume that it's probably the same, especially because I mean, the way the hawk was acting was very weird. Like it was just staring at you guys. So yeah, this hawk turns into this person, and they kind of like look over the crowd of people, kind of just like slowly nodding, before walking alongside the caravan, just slowly, kind of a ponderous step.
Shit.
Roll me stealth.
Oh, man. I knew this was coming. I actually have stealth.
Okay.
That's a 19 plus 4, 23.
Okay, you're good. Katori, sadly, only got a 5. But it wasn't for stealth. It was for a wisdom save. She starts to shake. And you see fresh tears start to streak down her face and wash away a bit of the charcoal on her neck. That's her. She was the one that was with all the Providencers. She killed my parents.
Shit. I am going to. Does it seem like anyone noticed her saying that so far? Is it like
No, all the
out of her
swords,
bag?
all the swords blindly just walking forward now.
Okay, I would whisper to her behind gritted teeth. You will have your revenge on this woman. I promise it to you. But for now, you must stay strong and stay hidden. Dry your tears.
She briefly nods, kind of composing herself, taking a deep breath and walking still. She is able to like refocus back in and be calm. Just barely though. As you guys continue along the path, just winding your way up towards the Blue Mountain, it strikes you how terrifyingly quiet it is. There's only the like occasional sob from a child or the shriek of a mother, and people fall out of line occasionally. If you fall to the ground, if you hold up the line, they don't stop for them. They just stab them and just leave them there. So there's kind of this trail of bodies just left up this path, this makeshift path they're forming. But eventually you crest another hill, and at the base of the hill you'd see a village, the village, and that's where we're gonna switch back over to the group in the city. So going back to you guys, what have you guys done after sending the guards out to do what Dennis asked?
No one else is going to step up. I will basically wait until just before noon, and Dennis, I believe it is going to speak to all the city. So I imagine like most people are kind of like waiting in the main center of town and cleared out from all the buildings and whatnot. And I'll be kind of like riding on horseback. You'll see that I actually dropped the crystal vase of whiskey that I actually polished off rather quickly with a hiccup. I'll look to Wes and say, hey, Wesley, I got some business to take care of. You want to come with me?
Yeah, sir, Mr. Sheriff, sir. I'll gladly follow you.
Look to Hiram, and sure you got stuff you need to do too, Hiram. I'll catch up with you at the town's meeting, and then hiccup again.
Wes, keep an eye on him.
Okie dokie.
He's had quite a bit to drink. Just make sure he doesn't get in trouble. And
Well, I think
Hiram will
it's
mount
too late
up.
for that, sir.
And yeah, Hiram will kind of laugh at that as he mounts up. And I'm going to go find Pickering if he's still in town.
Yeah, you'd see him kind of standing on one of these pathways along the side of these wooden boardwalks. He'd be standing, leaning up against a shop, one of these boarded up shops, his arms folded, watching the procession as kind of like more people gather. They kind of bring out like a lectern, something that he can speak from, and they've kind of gathered out just in front of the oasis, this empty pit in the ground now, this tunnel that just goes deep, so deep. And he's just kind of standing there leaning against the wall, just like looking. And he'd see you approach, he kind of like tip his head, like a little nod, and then kind of look past you.
Hey, Pickering, you got a minute?
For you, maybe 30 seconds.
All right. Calling in whatever favors I've got with you or anybody else from the Reapers, and I know what it's going to cost me. We need an expert out here. You know it as much as I do. If this town's going to be saved, and the Reapers continue to do business the way that we've been doing them, then we need somebody who's got more expertise than myself to at least look at this well.
He kind of like look at you, like looking at you, taking like your disheveled state in, taking in probably like the stress, like the knowledge that you know what's coming just as much as he does.
Oh yeah, like I'm still wearing a shirt that's covered in blood from like several days before. Like it's just not a good scene.
Yeah, he kind of like, and he's like looked immaculate almost.
And he's got this look on like Hiram knows what this is going to cost him. He knows that Pickering's going to get his way, that he's going to get arrested, but he's willing to basically be like, all right, here's my hands, cuff me, send me to whatever Reaper jail looks like, and let's get this fixed because it's bigger than me now.
Yeah, Pickering kind of just like smiles at this as you say, I'm calling you whatever favors I've got. And he's just like, is that so? And he kind of looks down at his watch, like, well, he flips open like a pocket watch. Well, the speech will be starting soon. I suppose I could maybe call in a couple favors, get some people out here.
And in our interest, I'd suggest you wait until this caravan goes, but I've got it in motion. Most everyone's going to be out of this town, so if you have to clean house afterward because it got too noticeable, it won't be that bad.
I see. Well, you know how the Reapers like to do their business, the sacrifice of the few for the good of the many.
Yeah, that's why I put together this caravan before I talked to you. I remember
I always liked how quickly you learned, Hiram. You were just never very good at taking the fall. But you're good at orchestrating it, I'll give you that.
Yeah, well, I think this time I don't have a choice.
Choice, the great illusion. Well, I'll see what I can do. I'll send a letter after all this debacle. And we'll see what Mr. Boughton has to say. I think that it'll be rather enlightening, don't you?
If this goes down the way you and I think this is going to go down, and I'm no longer able to perform my duties, I'd suggest that Deputy Lance take over. He's established himself with the Bountons and earned a level of trust.
You kind of just smile. Noted.
That is, unless you want Wes to take over.
That boy doesn't even have a dime in his head, let alone a nickel.
Wes is over there smiling, thinking, wow, that's 4 pennies more than I thought I had.
Well, we'll see what happens. And he kind of just nod to you. And kind of like turn like to look towards the lectern. You see Dennis Boughton approaching, kind of stepping up, looking out over the crowd. And then we'll hurry and switch over to Connor and Chris as they go off on their way. Where are you guys going?
So I imagine my horse is kind of tied up outside of a modest home that Lance has. And Wes, you've just been kind of sitting there now for like several minutes, and you know the meetings should have been starting any second now. And you just hear the occasional like crash and smash of something going on in the house. And then after like a few more moments where you're like, maybe I should go check on him, Lance comes like storming out of the door, pushes it open with like effort, and you see him like tucking something into his coat, and then walking down, and he's like, "Come on, Wesley, we'll walk the rest of the way." And he puts his arm around you.
You all right, Mr. Sheriff, sir?
Oh yeah,
I heard quite a kerfuffle going on up in the roof.
feeling great, Wes. Don't you worry about it. I got a plan for us. Come on.
Oh, all right, Mr. Sheriff Deputy Lance, sir.
Start like walking
You
down the
say
street,
so.
like all buddy, my arms on your shoulders, mainly because I'm like leaning into you now. And I pull up to the Snake Bite Tavern Inn and push open the doors. And I imagine now that the meeting's just about to start, that it's completely empty.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of look in and see the spot where Hiram likes to hang out all the time. His table, it's probably known as like Hiram's table, and the deck of cards are probably still laying there, as most people have probably cleared out pretty quickly. I go sit down in Hiram's spot, not before swiping off a bottle of liquor from behind the bar. I'll pay some coins up front, just placing it on the table, and say, "Come on, Wes. We've been working real hard lately. I say me and you, we play a drinking game. Sit down, boy. You've earned it."
I sure hope that's sarsaparilla.
Oh yeah, it's some strong sarsaparilla. And then I'll grab 2 shot glasses that are probably there, like pour out whatever's remaining and clean it with my dirty coat. Pour one for Wes, one for me, and then I'll start shuffling the cards and let's play a drinking game. You know, I'm winding a bit. It's been a couple days for us, and I just want to say that you make a good apprentice. I'm sorry that I got you in a bunch of trouble here. And then I'll start playing like a little drinking game with him.
And then we kind of like montage this a bit. And what does this card do? He's pointing. He flips out like the 5 of hearts or something.
It's like the 3rd time in a row now where I tell you that you have to drink. And you're just like, you drink, you lost.
You guys are just getting plastered in the tavern. I love.
And after
yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
The first shot is just like he's like barely swallowing it. He's like he has to like sip it down and like a grush, some nasty 10-minute ordeal, just like, oh, halfway to go, you know, just excruciatingly painful.
Lean over the table and like help you, like, drink up, boy. It'll make you feel better. I promise. And every time you're doing a shot, I'm doing a shot with you, anyways. Just like completely wrecked now. I imagine a couple more moments go by, and then I just like put my arms on my table just to hold myself up and just, Wesley, do you think I'm a good deputy?
I've never seen a deputy better than you, sir, sheriff, sir.
You really think so, though? Like, you, with the old family, you know, your brother and all.
Well, I reckon the deputy isn't responsible for bringing back the dead, unless you're getting all them funky dead people walkers. And that's not something I want.
What if I told you that that same deputy that you think is the best deputy let your whole family be kidnapped, taken by some ravaging tribal people? Would you still say, Wesley, then that I'm a good deputy?
I'd say that whatever you did say there was one mighty big lie.
And I just like kind of pull you in again, like that. Just personal space has kind of gone by, and I pull you in.
I understand. What's going on, Mr. Deputy Sheriff, sir?
I'm sorry, Wes. Your family, they've been taken by the soul. This whole city's going to shit, and there's just nothing that I feel I can do about it. It's not what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be black and white, those who break the law and those who uphold them. But the city's so much more than that.
Are the so your friends?
No.
Then you didn't do nothing to my family and my folk. Don't let that hang so heavy on your heart. Mr. Sheriff Deputy, sir. You've been a good man, and just because sometimes you only got two hands doesn't mean you don't got none more than two hands, you know? Sometimes just the bay hail is just sometimes it's too big. You need a helping hand.
Kind of like
Sometimes
pound
two
my
people
hand
gotta
on the
carry.
table, cut you off, and just, but it's my job to protect them.
And sometimes somebody needs a helping hand with the bale of hay. Wesley will like shout out. I don't know if like there's other people at all in this place, but that is the most out of context thing I could think of that they could probably hear and be confused by.
I imagine I actually like stumble over the table a bit, and you'll see fall out of my pocket like a little lockbox, and it kind of empties itself out, and you see that there's a picture of me, the peacekeeper's badge, and a big chunk of my hair that you now realize I've cut off. And then I just like fumble over it and scoop it back up into the box and tuck it back in my coat, and I say, "Listen, Wesley, listen real close here. I'm gonna take care of this. I can promise you that I'm gonna get to the bottom of this, and I'm not gonna let anything else happen to any of your family or anyone else around here in Krill's Gulch. But if I don't come back, I need you to become a man real quick and
10 prints.
yeah, a 10 prince."
You can count on me, Mr. Sheriff, sir. I'll be the darn tootin'est 10 prints this Gulchy Crow's ever seen. But you're coming back, right?
Yeah,
I don't want to be a 10 prince right now. Well, I mean, I do, but I don't want to be a 10 prince without you here.
I'm gonna do my best, Wes. That's all I can do. Try to be the best sheriff I can, or deputy.
Well, you're both a sheriff and a deputy in my eyes, Mr. Sheriff Deputy, sir.
Yeah, I'd say you need your eyes checked, but seems like it's a bad taste joke.
Yeah, Doc said something about my eyeball. I can't remember what he said. I think he got knocked in the head too hard.
And I kind of just sit back in the chair, and I imagine like the town meeting is being held just like a few blocks away, and just like drink the bottle with Wes, probably like forcing him to drink more than he wants to.
And
So
Wes is just getting super sleepy at this point because that's what happens when he gets drunk.
Yeah. Let's swap back outside then for the meeting as you guys are drinking away your woes, getting plastered in the Snake's Bite Tavern, and in the bottle slowly draining as you both get overly intoxicated. Outside at the lectern. Oh, 1 second. Okay. Outside at the lectern, you see Dennis Boughton kind of step up. He looks even more stressed, even more exhausted than before. And he'd kind of step up to the lectern, looking out over everybody. Everybody kind of quiets down in expectation. They've set this up just right outside the oasis, the empty pit directly behind him. Kind of puts his hands on either side of the lectern and kind of like takes this big, deep breath. For as long as I can, as long as any of you can remember, a Boughton has lived on that house on that hill, has watched over, protected this town, kept it relevant, kept it watered, kept it fed. And now, half of the Boughton family, half of the men who can step up and lead this community are dead. My great ancestor, he did not meet with God and find this water just so that its people could die one day. And I'm not going to let it happen either. We are organizing a caravan out. The water's drying up, the Soa are attacking, and frankly, we don't have the manpower to protect everybody. What with everyone in the north and the eastern fields and western fields getting taken. If you wish to leave, the caravan will leave tonight. I sent out men to scout the route out to make sure that there are no ambushes set. If you wish to leave, you may. If you wish to stay and fight alongside me, alongside this community, stand up for our homes, I invite you to report to my house, to our mansion, the Boughton House, tonight. We will equip you with weapons and ammunition. We will do our best to defend this town. I know that some of you feel like we've lost the mandate to rule this community, to lead it and guide it. But I'm here to tell you more than ever that even if you've given up on us, we haven't given up on you. We will protect you. You hear a loud scoff from the back of the audience, the back of the group. And standing there is that man, Mr. Lawrence of the Owen Water Trading Company. You lost your mandate years ago, Boughton. You show your true colors and leave with everyone else. Dennis kind of just like looks down at his hands and looks back up at him. Because this is my community as much as it is anyone else's. I live here too. I ain't leaving. And the man laughs, Mr. Lawrence. Then you're just as stupid as your father was. And he turns around with the other water trading company men. After this place is cleared out, we'll come back and we'll make this into a thriving community again, people. I promise you that. So you might as well just leave. And he walks away with the rest of his men. Dennis looks defeated, kind of just shrugs. I beg you to stay and defend your community. And he steps down off the lectern, kind of heading back up the hill. You see people immediately start to like talk back and forth, just whispering as he leaves. What is Hiram doing?
Hiram's taking note of who seems to be stepping forward, just kind of generally glancing through the crowd. But what he's doing is he's looking at Lester to see what Lester's response is, because he's anticipating that he's going to have to knock out and tie up Lester to get him out of town.
The speech moved Lester. You see him like gritting his teeth and checking his revolver, all the bullets in it. You see him feeling his pockets to find the other ones and kind of just nodding to himself before following his brother back up the hill.
All right. Well, I guess I got one more thing to do. And then he casts a look kind of knowingly to Pickering, just for like a moment, like, okay, I'm ready to play the game. And he'll turn back towards the house as well.
Yeah, Pickering moves off. You see him making his way towards the bank to send some sort of a telegram or something to call to one of his favors in. You start making your way up the hill, following the Boughton's back up to the manor. Matoska, as you follow this caravan towards the base of the Blue Mountain, you would see that eventually they'd arrive at the village and they'd shove everyone into the village, and then kind of like everyone will kind of separate off, going to their own places, except for a small group who would take like 10 of the prisoners, 10 of these people, and start making their way up the mountain You see there's a well-worn path that moves up there. Nobody in the village is not marked with these black lines. And as you see them kind of like start to like take off their like, their war paint is like scrubbed off, and like they take off their like armor, like this crude kind of buckskin armor they're wearing. You would see that from like a point on everyone's backs, like right behind their heart on the back of their shoulder blade, that's where these lines originate. You see jutting from their skins these chunks of metal. So they move these 10 people up the hill. You guys kind of try and settle in somewhere, and you're kind of just watching and waiting. And you
Are
see
there
the
like
10
huts and teepees and stuff?
Yes,
Like,
just
what
like
does
all over
village
the
look
place.
like? Yeah,
Yeah.
so we would duck into one.
Yeah, you could duck into one and claim it. But as you'd watch, they come back down maybe an hour or two later, these 10 people, and they'd have the same black lines now on their skin, and in their eyes are blank. And they're kind of just ushered into the village, where they meekly kind of like take positions, take homes, take places to sleep. And yeah. Is there any last thing you want to do before we end the session? And then we'll go and do one for the other two players too.
Yeah, so Matoska is going to try to send word to the Providencers of where he is and what's going on. He knows that the sheriff, the deputy Lance, is a good man with a good heart, and that he will have the power and the willpower to come here and help. He knows that Hiram may be a little bit of a scoundrel, but he has the knowledge and the know-how to deal with whatever's happening here. And he knows that he doesn't know much about Wesley, but he knows that that gun of Wesley's is going to come in handy before the end. And so those are the people he trusts. And I'm not sure. I think so. What he would try to do would be to find one of the Providencers that's still here. One of the Providencers that can write.
Mm-hmm.
And get them, like, sort of discreetly, or like under pretense of like bringing water or something, pretending to be a drone still, to discreetly draft a letter for him. And once that letter is written, he's going to tell Katori to hang tight, and that man, I can't think of a way to get the letter to them without taking it myself. Fuck. Yep, he'll tell Katori to hang tight, and he will physically turn into an owl and take the letter that has been drafted. And that's it. That's all I got.
So while you're flying through the clouds, you're making your way towards Crow's Gulch quickly. Now that you're in the air, you hear a screech behind you as a hawk dives at you from above.
Oh!
And that's when we're going to swap over to Chris or Connor, whoever wants to do the next closing scene. Which one?
I knew that was going to happen. That's so cool.
Okay, Connor. Do you have anything planned for your closing scene? If not, I have something.
Not really. Besides, we're looking at shot glasses of whiskey.
Okay. As you get deathly drunk, just plastered beyond plastered, you would find suddenly, as you're kind of like your head on the table, that you've unconsciously pulled the gun out and you're spinning its chamber as you're looking at it. It just, as you spin it. And as you're looking at it, as you're staring at the gun, at the rotating chambers, at the bullets with their heads barely poking out, it stops with a click. And suddenly you're standing. You're taller than you remember somehow. You feel taller. You feel bigger, more muscular. And you're looking across a sandy floor at another person who's standing kind of sideways towards you, their shoulder pointed, hand on a gun. You look down at your clothing, and you immediately recognize him as your father's. The clothing he always wore. His The only difference is that he's now wearing a dueling jacket. And he looks across the field towards this man. What are you thinking?
I'm confused. I feel like I'd be wanting to scream, wanting to like move my arms, but I can't. It's like you're watching from behind a window. You're kind of slamming into this window, but it's soundproof. Nothing else can even be heard. And I'm looking around at every single detail I can, looking at the scars and pits and calluses of, my father's hands and arms, looking at the eyes of the duelist across from me, looking at whatever shadowy memories or even whatever surroundings I can make out in this dim light.
And you're looking at this man standing across from you, and the first thing you notice immediately, his eyes are green. He looks at your father looks back at him, and you see, as they both go to draw, as the sound is called, as the shout is given, the man draws first, and it's a black star steel revolver with golden etchings. The pistol whips out quick as lightning, and before your father can even touch the trigger, there's a hole in his chest, and he looks down and looks back up. It's right over his heart. And he whispers, "I'm sorry," before he collapses to his knees and falls on his side. You see then the gun in his hand, this silver and white star steel revolver, actually disappears. And finds its way into a box buried in the field. Until one day, the lid is uncovered, it's opened, and you're looking up from the gun, up at yourself, as you're kneeling over it and looking at it. And you feel a hunger. And as the hand closes around the hilt, finger touching the trigger for the first time in 10 years, you feel an excitement, a desire to be fired, and the cylinder clicks as it spins once. And then you're back, looking at this revolver in your hand, replaying this memory, the shadow of a face, black hair, green eyes, a narrow chin, though strong and defined still. And it is strangely the spitting image of Lance.
I think I find myself here with the gun outstretched. I'm no longer playing with it. It's pointed. My arm is firm, and it's pointed directly at Lance. It's almost at this point where I kind of become aware, but my arm is still locked in place.
Mm-hmm. And the gun whispers, "Do it. Do it." And you know somehow, deep inside you, the gun's telling you that his father killed your father.
Wes closes his eyes. He can't control what's about to happen. As his hand squeezes.
Okay. Lance, you kind of look up and you see that he's pointing a gun at you, but his eyes are kind of glazed over. They don't seem completely his. He's not fully awake. He's lost in something. But his gun is pointing at you, and as you see his fingers start to squeeze the trigger. What do you do?
I imagine nothing.
Okay.
You tell me if I'm actually there or not.
Yeah, as his finger starts to close on the trigger, you see his eyes roll in the back of his head, the alcohol overwhelming him as he collapses to the ground his head slamming on the edge of the table, the gun falling from his hand onto the floor as he drifts into unconsciousness.
I let out a breath, a sigh. It's not of relief though. Imagine you see like a single like tear rolling down Lance's face. He stands up, puts his hat on, and pats Wes on the head. Sorry, boy. I'll do what I can. And begins to walk out. And you just stop me when you want me to stop. But you see him walk out through the streets of Crow's Gulch, the dim lanterns kind of lighting the main street. And he walks farther and farther until the lights of Crow's Gulch become this faint, dim glow in the back. And ahead of him, he's walking towards one single light that two poles hold on a tiny rope in between, and the breeze is kind of slowly blowing it back and forth. And he continues to walk to this crossroads. Just one single man kind of silhouetted by the light in the darkness, shovel over his shoulder. And he begins to go to work as you hear metal hitting dirt, scooping big chunks of dirt out of the center of this crossroad, throwing it over his shoulders. Before long, he pulls out a lockbox, checks all the materials are still in there, closes it, and packs the dirt down, and then sits down on a stone on the side of this crossroad. Says to himself or somebody, "I'm sorry. Guess I wasn't any better than him after all."
You hear a whisper in your ear. What took you so long to call? And walking around you, this figure steps. And he kind of looks down at you. He's dressed very handsomely. Here to make a deal. Your poppy made one too. One of my best customers, actually. I can't wait to hear what you have to say, my friend. Little boy Lance. And that is where we'll end the session. Thanks for playing. Thanks for tuning in. As always, if you like the game, feel free to like and subscribe. The session was awesome. I'm looking forward to the next one. And as always, hope you find yourselves in your games on a roll.